Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with Sivan Kobi of Sivan's Kitchen. She is a passionate baker, chef, and recipe developer, as well as a food blogger and obviously lover of food. Welcome, Sivan. So nice to see you.
Thank you, Deborah. Nice to see you too. Thank you for
So
having me.
let's start with your backstory. So how did you, and I know more because, Google, and we know of the same realm. But so, how did you become this lover of food? Because I know it's like
So I've
impressive.
always loved food, always, always. My entire life, I've loved food. I've come from a food background as well. So I grew up, my parents owned a bakery and a deli. So a few bakeries, three all across the Los Angeles area, and a deli where from the age of 15, I was working at the deli, waitressing, working in the back, working in the front counters, all over with my brother. And I was always at the bakery as a little girl, loving it. I came from grandmothers that also were chefs and cooks and loved the kitchen. My mom's side is the Iraqi side. My father's side was the Ashkenazi side, and just loving food all the time. And then on top of that, I married at a very young age. I married at the age of 19, and I married a man that also came from the food background. We always joked because his family had an Israeli restaurant, and he was helping his parents running it for them, and it was a kosher Israeli restaurant, Israeli food in the Los Angeles area as well. And we would always joke and say how if we had nothing, at least we would have a hummus plate and something sweet to eat. So, um, and that's it. Just my whole life, just basically being a mom, being a young mom, being a young housewife. You're in the kitchen, you're cooking, you're making food for your family. And I developed a passion of loving it. And his family as well are all incredible. I was blessed to have sister-in-laws that were incredible in the kitchen, and I learned so much from them. His own mom, my mother-in-law, my late mother-in-law, I learned so much from her too, and also from my husband as well. So I've just been lucky enough and blessed to be around so many people that were such good chefs and always helped me along the way that made me basically into who I am today. But besides the fact I did always love baking and I love to just love being in the kitchen. And when COVID hit, my daughter said to me, "Why don't you start sharing everything that you do? I don't understand why you don't share. All my girlfriends are getting married now, or they are married, and they don't know how to cook anything because all their moms only tell them, put a little this, put a little bit of that. And girls today need measurements. They want everything to be measured out for them. And your English is good, and you can do this." And I was like, Ariel, this isn't for me. I don't want to deal with this. And I don't even know how to open up Instagram. And she's like, "Well, I'll help you." So she took my page that I originally had. I had a cake business for about 10 years called Sivan's Cakes with SK, because those are my initials. And she turned it into Sivan's Kitchen. And that was basically all she did for me. From then on, I was a fish swimming in the ocean, and I just had to do everything for myself on Instagram. So I learned how to story, and I learned how to edit, and I learned how to add captions and write up recipes and put everything all together. And recently I've mastered reels and how to, upload reels and really get my video content level higher and higher, even as the time goes by.
I love it. So it sounds like you had there was no escaping you being in the food business.
I guess
Which
not, because I've always loved being in the kitchen and I've always loved, well, I love eating too. So I love good food and I love eating it. And why not prepare it too, And the best part about it is if you can share it with others and bring in the joy of cooking and on top of all of it, Judaism into your home, then it's like win-win all the way around, especially for me.
a lot of people get so overwhelmed. So what do you have to say to those people who are like, I like the idea of cooking, but no.
So the best way is to strategize and to know how to prepare ahead of time. If you know that you have a meal that you need to prepare and there's parts of it like the dressing of the salad that you can even prepare days before, a day before, 2 days before. If there's something that you can do ahead of time, if it's whether it's even dough for challah bread for Friday. I know Fridays can be busy, especially if you're a working person. And how do you manage to make challah with all the steps? There's rising, the first rise, then second rise, then a third rise. I can't be in the kitchen all day. I get people sending me DMs on that all day long. And how do you manage? So you can make the dough, say, the night before and then pull it out the following morning. There's always ways to go about it. Really, I always say when there's a will, there's a way. There's always ways to do things. And even if a food blogger that you love shows something, but the way they show it is a little bit too, you know, intricate and there's too many steps, cut out a step. It's okay. Try and like use some common sense, when also you're looking at recipes. I know that for many it's hard. For many they just really, really got to follow it, just what they see. But it's okay to step a little bit away and change up someone that has already, like an author's recipe. It's okay to make it your own.
All right. But how do you know which steps to skip?
You kinda just like, if there's, like, a step that's, like, maybe the author writes about it and doesn't get too much into it and just says, you can do this or you don't have to do this part or you can do this, then skip it. Um, I like to cook at night when I know my next day is gonna be really busy, so I'll make stuff at night. Also freezing ahead of time. I know people love to freeze things ahead of time. So if you have, like, a day or 2 where you're not working, where you have, an easier day, maybe more open or free, then make some, dishes and then freeze them, and then you have them for, when guests come or if you have busier weeks ahead or whatever it may be, then you have them in your freezer. People love freezing food. I've realized that ever since my page has developed. It's like, "Can I freeze this? Can I freeze that?" They wanna freeze every single thing in their house.
Are there any things you can't freeze?
Like whipped cream cakes, I don't think are very good to freeze because whipped cream, period, is not something I would really freeze. Those are kind of things that I kind of stay away from, even though many people have asked me before, and I think many have done it also. But I'm not a fan of those kind of things. Beside that, I freeze cookies. You can freeze rice. You can freeze anything. Really, really, you can freeze anything. It's really amazing the things that can be done.
And if you don't know whether or not you can freeze it, just go to Sivan's Kitchen on Instagram and just ask you.
Ask me.
Awesome. Well, and it sounds like, so you were blessed with growing up around food and cooking, but not everybody was. Do you know or do you recall your very first cooking memory?
Cooking memory. I remember one time I had no idea how to make stuffed peppers, and I called up my husband. He was at work, and I said to him, "How do I make them? How do I make stuffed peppers?" And he literally guided me through the phone. And I was so like proud of myself. Like, wow, I looked at this pot of stuffed peppers and I was like, wow, I made this. Like, this is really, really big. Like, this is really, really cool. And yeah, he guided me on how to make it. And so that was one thing I remember, like, I was probably 19 years old. I had just gotten married and, I can't remember if I already had I think I did because we were already in the second apartment. So I want to say I already had my first child, Ariel, and I made that first pot of stuffed peppers and I was like, wow, this is big. Like, okay.
You grew up around bakeries and delis. You
Yes.
love to cook, but you really love to bake.
I love baking. Baking is literally in my blood, runs through me all day long. I mean, it's just a therapy for me. It calms me down. It relaxes me. I enjoy eating it. I enjoy having baked goods on my counter all the time. It's kind of like a bittersweet moment for me to see all of the baked goods on the table and on my counter because when my father was alive, he passed away about 15 years ago, but when he was, every Friday he would bring me bags and bags and bags from the bakery of just boxes of cakes and cookies and whatever it was. And whether even if we ate them or not, visually, just seeing it there on my counter was, like, comforting for me. And so when he passed away, I mean, and I never threw away anything because I'm a big believer of never throwing away food, so I would give it away to friends, family, neighbors, my daughter's, office at the school or whatever it may be. I always gave away stuff because 'cause I'm telling you, he would always bring me tons of stuff home. And, um, and after he passed away, it really became, like, almost like a hole in my heart, like when I wouldn't see the counter full of stuff. So I basically started baking myself. I started getting more into the baking and, making more cookies and more stuff, just as long as it just stood on my counter.
It's a beautiful legacy that
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
you
it
left
really
for
is.
you.
It
And
really is.
what is so giving away, and I love that too because I love trees, and I love to eat them, but I also there's joy, right?
Such a joy.
So what I what is it, that gives us that warm feeling
I
about
don't know.
sharing?
I think it's really nice to let people enjoy what you love, you know? So like if you love it so much and it tastes good to you, you want others to be able to enjoy it too, you know? And I think of course, hostess gifts are always beautiful to bring to someone, but I think when you walk in with like a homemade cake or a homemade platter of cookies to someone's home, holiday party, whatever it may be, um, it brings something different. I think it's more personal. It's on a personal level, and it shows that you took some time and you didn't just go to Home Goods and pick up a platter and put it in a bag and bring it to them. Not that that's bad. I'm just saying, but you actually took that platter and you added something of you on there, and of your kitchen. And I just think it's really nice. I think people really do appreciate it, your hard work that you put into it.
Well, I love to share, or I love asking my guests to share a recipe because I don't think it's fair to talk about food and not give people, a
Of course.
context. So what is a good, easy, let's stick with baking. What is a good, easy recipe that we can also
So,
the recap?
of course, I love one bowl winner cakes. I absolutely love them. I love the fact that you don't have to pull out a mixer. You don't have to pull out even like a hand mixer. There's no electricity done. So even if you're out in the woods, you can make this cake. All you need is a whisk and a bowl. That's all you need. And I love when you can put in ingredients and you just whip it all up and it creates this beautiful cake and delicious and moist. And it can go with coffee, it can go with tea. And the smell of baking also is like just so amazing in your home, and it makes your home warm and cozy and comforting, and your kids come home and they smell it, and right away it brings like joy to your heart. It opens up your soul, your neshama, and it makes it just feel so wonderful. So one of my favorite one bowl winners is my orange cake. It's a one bowl winner orange cake, and it's made with orange juice and orange zest, and the smell is divine. And then there's this delicious orange syrup that goes on top that you make while it's baking. um, Easy, simple, pantry staple ingredients. Something else that I love. I don't like to incorporate recipes that are too difficult that now you have to go shopping for it. And oh my God, and if I don't have this ingredient, basically don't make it then because you have to have this one ingredient. But I like recipes that are simple: flour, eggs, sugar, oil, oranges, things that people can, they have a neighbor that has an orange tree, things that are just easy and simple. I love it.
And what you can do is, get the orange from your neighbor's orange tree, make
And
the
make it
cake,
for
and
them.
give them the
Yep.
cake.
Yeah, and I've done that actually before many times. So I've taken lemons from my neighbor and I made her a lemon blueberry cake. And people are just like, "What? You actually made a lemon blueberry cake from these lemons? Like you didn't even have to do that. I have so many lemons. Like just take them." And I'm like, "No, it's my pleasure. It feels good to me."
It's a great way to bake it forward, right?
100%. Yep.
I'm I'm sure I'm not the first person to say it, but I think that's just a really good, I think, philosophy of baking as well.
Absolutely. It sure is. I love
A-
it. Yep.
And
Take
the
it
other
forward.
the other thing that I love that you were saying is and it's true. If you have the ingredient, you see this great recipe, and if you have the ingredients, you make it. If you don't,
Right
just
away.
forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it because people say, "Oh, I have the ingredients. I'm gonna make the cake right now," and it's quick and it's simple and they can whip it up, on a Friday afternoon right before Shabbat comes in. And I love how they're usually dairy free as well. My one bowl winners, meaning there's no dairy in them. So for people who are more strict and keep the kashrut and can't have dairy after meat or whatever it is that they're waiting for, that then it's perfect for them too.
You mentioned earlier how baking is like therapy. So, how can people use cooking and baking to get through challenging times?
Get in the kitchen. Just try and put away your phone for a moment. Try and, create something. See what your hands can create, get into some dough making. Make a fala and get those hands, kneading that dough and just like connect to it. Um, Enjoy with your family and your friends what you baked and what you made, bring it to a friend, hang out with her, to a family member, whatever it may be. Um, just for me, like I said, yeah, baking is definitely my therapy, and I can bake all day long in the kitchen, and my time will just go by so fast and makes me feel good.
One of my absolute favorite things about cooking is you cannot be on the phone and cook.
Unless you're
It's like,
filming. So
well,
someone
okay,
like me.
okay, point taken. But it just forces you to step away from the news and the
It
messages,
really
and
does.
you could just immerse yourself in that
100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
aren't you should ask this as a question. When you're cooking, you're like giving of yourself to the energy, right? But also that is what you're sharing.
Exactly. Exactly. So it makes you feel good and it brings some comfort to you, and then especially if it comes out good and and you're enjoying the food and your family and friends are enjoying the food. What better way is that than you hear, wow, this tasted so good. It was so delicious. You're such an amazing baker, whatever it is, like you make people think that, oh wow, this was a cinch and I made this so fast and turned out delicious.
And so food can elevate that it feeds you, but it elevates your spirit.
100%. 100%. I think I'm also a foodie, so I love to eat and I love good food. I think food is really like love language, and it just brings people together and it tastes good at the same time. And if not for good food, I feel like our lives would be so empty, without yummy, delicious food.
Our lives and our bellies would be so empty.
100%. 100%.
Is there something, and you've been cooking your whole life, so I'm not quite sure how you're going to answer this. I'm going to ask you anyway. Is there something you know now that you wish you knew when you started baking and cooking and being immersed in this culture?
So I wish I took my father more under my wing and really got into the kitchen more with him one on one and hands on rather than, sometimes seeing him at the bakery working and like picking up things from him like that. Like I almost wish like we bought store bought ingredients and not bakery ingredients. And he would teach me the things that he made at the bakery with products that you can buy at your local market, because I do have his recipes, but his recipes are sometimes very difficult to switch from the bakery products to regular store-bought products that you can buy at a regular store. And also the amounts are so vast
Which
in a bakery that to chop it down almost it's almost impossible, and yet it kind of almost ruins the recipe. So because I've tried it before and that's how I know. So I wish today I had him more closer to me and really really learned more from him at the time. But he was the baker. He didn't want anyone else baking around him, and even if my mom would make something at home and he'd be like, "Why'd you make that? Like, I bring so much stuff home. Why did you make this?" So it wasn't like a thing to bake, even if I would make stuff at home too. And I would be like, Abba, taste this cake that I made. He's like, oh, yeah, it's okay. Like it wasn't like, wow, what a delicious cake you made. It was like, "Mm, yeah, it's good."
so I guess the lesson is, and I'm guessing you bake and you cook with your family, is to cook and bake with your family.
Yes, as much as you can. I've lately brought my mom into my kitchen recently. And I have shared a couple reels with her in my kitchen, and the feedback has been incredible. People are loving it. She's brought me two Iraqi recipes from her late mother, my late grandmother. And people are loving it. People are really, really liking it. So I'm incorporating her in some of the things. And yeah, I have, I incorporate my mother in law's recipes all the time. My late mother in law. I recently, over the summer, had her sister staying with me, and her sister is also an incredible chef. She's still alive and she makes delicious food. And I had her with me for about a week, and we just busted out so many recipes that week that I just like boom, boom, boom. And I kept on sharing her and talking about the way she was making them. So it's nice. People really like to see your background, where you came from, things that, show who you are and how you came to this. So people really do like that connection that you're bringing them more into your lives and into your kitchen.
So if you've got foodie people in your life, embrace them, cook with them. And if you don't, just follow Sivan and she will help.
All right, I guess if you want to say so.
Do you have any final thoughts or tips that you think chefs need to know or chefs, home cooks, whoever, so they can better embrace cooking simply?
Just enjoy it. Enjoy the time that you have. Think about it that you're making it for your loved ones. Even if you're just cooking for yourself, aren't you a loved one to yourself? Think about it like that. Forget about, not everyone has family or kids or a husband or wife, whatever it may be. Even if you're just preparing a meal and you've worked 2 hours to prepare a yummy meal for yourself, you're enjoying it. So take it all in good sense and in good time and in good health as well, and enjoy the process of it too, because it's not just about eating it, it's also the process of it too.
And enjoying it. I love that. It's such great
Yeah.
words to wrap on. Where can people
Thank you.
connect with you, learn more about you?
So they can contact me on Instagram. I also have an email as well. If you want to reach out to me and talk to me, it's Sivan's Kitchen LA at gmail.com. I also do share some of my favorite products, and I have a holiday line that came out in September for Rosh Hashanah, and I have a holiday line coming out for Hanukkah. Just a few items, not too many, that people can also give as gifts or have in their home.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Sivan Kobi, for
Thank
joining
you.
us today.
Thank you, Deborah.
And thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. And you can go to joelishjournal.com/ifast to get that wonderful winter cake recipe and
Good.
also read more about Sivan and Sivan's kitchen. You can also learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Until next time, bon appetit.